ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्त्वं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. In Sri Ramakrishna, the great master, we are taken up as the spiritual teacher, second part, and the first chapter called Vaishnav Charan and Gauri. In that, Bhairavi is coming, and Bhairavi telling Sri Ramakrishna is in incarnation. And call Pandits, I will verify. Mathur Babu was in the beginning reluctant, but Thakur said that do call them. Mathur thought that if they tell that this is not incarnation, Thakur will believe in the medicines. So he called them. He decided to call Vaishnav Charan and Gauri Pandit. Now Vaishnav Charan came and Bhairavi told everything about Thakur. Thakur himself told him certain things and Vaishnav Charan accepted whatever Bhairavi has said. And Vaishnav Charan said that only in Radha and Chaitanya these symptoms are there. And so everybody was surprised. Now, who was Vaishnav Charan and what is his authority? For that, Saradananda Swamiji has started. How the Karta Bhaja, he belonged to a Karta Bhaja sect. So, tracing the evolution of religious manifestation, Saradananda Swamiji, like I have not seen any one in the world. So he traces like that in the Vedas there is Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. In Karma Kanda, Bhog and Yoga is mixed. But they do not claim to make you reach the highest goal. In Vedanta, there is no trace of Karma Kanda. So that was clear distinction in the Vedas. Those who want religion and enjoyment, they go to Karma Kanda. And those who want pure spirituality, they come to Vedanta. Then Buddhism came. And Buddha preached only that Neti part of Vedanta. And all people cannot do that. So there started Tantricism. They started worshipping a Niratma Devi. And Hindus were worshipping God openly through fire. And he stopped them. So that led to so many secret things. And in Buddhism, this Tantricism came. And then Tantras tried to foist Vedantic Advaita on the puja actions, ritual actions. That is the Tantricism. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came and he thought that the Advaita philosophy cannot be easily introduced in common man. So let us stick to Dvaita because that will lead to Kalyan, that will lead to spiritual welfare for the common man. And so he removed that Advaita part of Tantra and accepted the puja, ritual puja of the Tantra. You know that all the pujas which you are doing today are tantric pujas. So that ritual part he accepted, removed the Advaita part. Up to this we are read. So any Vashvachara of the Tantras, that means external purity, external observances, is stressed very much. Now we read to para 27. From this sadhana originated eventually the doctrines of Karta, Bhaja, etc., the essence of all those doctrines. But their effort was all in vain. Very shortly after they means Chaitanya's immediate disciples. Very shortly after they had passed away, the human mind, full of desires, introduced impure ideas into the pure process of worship founded by them. Man discarded the subtle ideas and took only the gross objects. Instead of cultivating the heartfelt attraction which a woman has for her paramour and directing it towards God, he went the length of taking a mistress himself. Thus he introduced bhoga, worldly enjoyment. He means man. Thus he introduced bhoga, worldly enjoyment, into the pure process of yoga, union with God, and brought it down to the level of his natural inclination to a certain extent. And what else can he do? For he is unable to live such a pure life. It is only a combination of yoga and bhoga that he can assimilate. He wants to realize spirituality, but simultaneously covets a little of the enjoyments of sight, taste, etc. And this was why there arose in the Vaishnava community worship and secret sadhana according to the doctrines of the Karta Bhajas, owls, bowls, darveshes, and saints, and so on. Therefore, at the root of all these is seen the current of the very ancient Vedic karma, yoga and bhakti together. That combination of yoga and bhoga, along with it a tendency to combine each action with the non-dual knowledge in Tantra. A process founded by the Tantric Kula teachers is also seen. The method of the teaching of sadhya, the object of realization, and sadhana, the means of realization, according to the Karta Bhaja and other doctrines. In this, I want to introduce something more which Saradananda Swami had not stated. He has limited himself mostly to the developments in Bengal. There was one Acharya, Vallabhacharya, from Gujarat. When he came to Vrindavan, he stayed there permanently. Now he introduced the sampradaya called Pushti Marga. And Pushti Marga is dwindling, but Maybe one or two here and there in Gujarat, it is still there. Do you know a little of Pushti Marga? Now there, woman is taken as object of enjoyment. Now a man marries. That means he is going to enjoy a woman. But after marriage, the wife should stay with the Guru for 3 days and 3 nights. Just like we offer something to God and then enjoy, so the wife should be enjoyed with the Guru. This peculiar doctrine flooded Gujarat at one time. And now, slowly people are discarding it. But it does exist perhaps here and there, secretly. Anyway, so what I am telling is various sampradayas throughout India trying to combine yoga and the reader will easily understand what we said above. If you mention here the ideas of Karta Bhaja and similar other communities regarding God, liberation, self-control, renunciation, love, etc. Speaking of these communities, the Master told us many things at different times. They are recorded in verses in a simple language. The reader will realize when he hears them how far those verses help the ordinary people in understanding the ideas conveyed by those terms. The people of these communities call God Alek Lata. It is superfluous to say that the word Alek is derived from the Sanskrit word Alaksha, the unknown and unknowable, Alaksha. This Alek enters into the mind of pure man. In other words, it manifests itself through it as Karta, the spiritual teacher. On such a teacher, they bestow the title of Sahaja, the man whose natural tendencies lead Godward. The community is called Karta Bhaja, worshipper of the spiritual teacher, because it is only a human being truly inspired by the mood of the spiritual teacher that is regarded by them as the object of worship. Not God, a man. About the real nature of Alek Lata and its influence on a pure heart, they say, it comes imperceptibly, goes imperceptibly, nobody can see the Alek. One who has known it is the object of worship in the three words. One who is Jnani of that. The sign of a Sahaja man is that he always remains intact. Understand this? In other words, he does not lose his serenity on account of lust, even if he be always in the company of women. That is Sahaja and that is Atut, intact. They say about him, he lives with women but never indulges in sexual satisfaction. Now, something like the Tantra Virachara. If an aspirant does not live unattached in the world of lust and gold, he cannot advance spiritually. They therefore teach him, be a cook and distribute the curry, but do not touch the cooking pot. Anasakta. Make the frog dance in the mouth of the snake, but let not the snake swallow it. Sadhana in the atmosphere of enjoyment. Bathe in the sea of ambrosia, but do not let your hair be wet. Just as in the Tantra, the sadhakas have been divided into three classes, the animal, the heroic and the divine. So there are high and low classes of sadhakas among the Kartavajas. They speak of 4 classes. The bowls, darveshas and saints. You know what is darvesh? Darvesh is a wandering monk. And saint is the upper branch of Swami, a master. Sai Baba, you heard Swami. And they say that there is none higher than a Sai. The master said, all of them worship the formless aspect of God. Through the Guru, Is it so? Because Thakur's words. Achha, one couplet have we missed? Here it is. Oh, like that, There is a poetry which is missed, and they say there is none higher than a sai. This also is in a couplet in Bengali. Aul baul darvesh sai, saiyer par arnai. And then Thakur comes. Yara sakale ishwarer arup ruper bhajan karen. Arup rup, formless beauty. You know where this term occurs? Arup rup? In a famous song. Nibida, seeing Thakur, Chiranjeev Sharma has composed this song. Nibida andare ma, tor chamake arupa rupa rashi. Now people have made so many patvadas in that. Some people say arupa rashi, arupa rupa rashi, o rupa rashi. So now Thakur is in Samadhi and so much joy is manifested on him. So what is seeing? Beauty. Beauty of that formless beauty. That is what they worship. He used to also to sing often a few songs of this community for us. Take for example the song Dive, O mind, O my mind, dive into the sea of beauty. Dub 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 roop sagar amar man. You will realize the treasure, the gem of love, when you will make a search in the deepest world of your heart. That means outside you are seeing so many beautiful forms, but go deep. And there that formless will be there. And you will have all the joy there. Search over and over again, and you will realize Vrindavan in your heart. You know, Riddhi Vrindavane was, there is a song. That means this Krishna's Raslila is eternally going on in the heart of the sadhu. He can visualize the Raslila inside the heart. The lamp of knowledge will constantly burn, brightly illumining your heart. Who is he who conducts the boat so easily on land? What is that? Ding, 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 dangai, dingi, chalai, se konjal. Boat is in the water, but boat on the land. Kubir says, remember, Kubir, not Kabir. This is a Bengali poet, not the known Kabir. Kubir says, listen attentively, meditate on the holy feet of the Guru. That is the conclusion. Roop, Arup, everything on Guru's feet. Thus, to worship the Guru and remain engaged in congregational devotional exercises are their chief sadhanas. Although they do not disapprove the worship of the image, forms, etc. of deities, they generally do not worship them. The worship of the Guru in India is very ancient. It seems to have been prevalent from the age of the Upanishads. For we read in the Upanishads, let the Acharya be your God. It appears that the worship of deities was not at all in vogue at that time. One is astonished to see how many forms that worship of the Guru assumed in India in course of time. Besides, the aspirants have to undergo various religious exercises in order to renounce from their minds the consciousness of difference, such as clean and unclean. This is in Tantras and Vaishnavas also, Kartavajas, good and bad, and so on, to come to Advaita. The master said the aspirants receive instructions regarding those exercises coming down from Guru to disciple. It is not written in the books. He would now and again mention a little of those also. Now, this was Vaishnavacharan. Vaishnavacharan took the master to a private meeting of the Kachivagan group to test him. The master was ever and again heard to say, the Vedas and the Puranas should be heard by the ear, but the disciplines prescribed by the Tantra should be actually performed and carried into practice. Now here there is a lot of misunderstanding, understanding, different understanding. People think in Bengal it was very common. It is coming in the next sentence. Very common. Siddhante Vedanti, Anushtane Tantri. If you ask a man, Sadhak, what is to which sampradaya you belong, what do you accept? He said, Siddhante Vedanti, Anushtane Tantri. I accept the Vedanta Siddhanta, but I practice Tantra. But if you go deep, that is a different meaning. Vedas and Puranas also are included. Shravan is the sadhana. According to Vedanta, you do not have to do anything. Not doing is sadhana. What you have to do? Shravan, Manan, Nididhasan. But in Tantra, they have put that Advaita on the rituals. So you have to do that by your hand, practice it. But people take it to be a mixture. And this was the common talk. Siddhanta Vedanti Anushtane Tantri. The master was ever and again heard to say, the Vedas and the Puranas should be heard by the ear. Puranas is included. Because Puranas only through stories and all that, they are telling Vedanta. But the disciplines prescribed by the Tantra should be actually performed and carried into practice. It is seen to almost everywhere in India, I say, that the followers of the Smritis, who are the followers of the Smritis, not Vaishnavas. You come outside Bengal. Huh? And Shankaracharya taught Vedanta. And he knows that Vedanta cannot be practiced like this. So in practical life, he inculcated the Smritis. Shankar did 2-3 things. Huh? Vedanta he taught. Vedanta is the ultimate proof of all your sampradayas that he taught. He established Panchayatana Puja. That means individual sects, I am Ganpati worshipper, I am Devi worshipper, I am Surya worshipper. He said, you do that, but you should worship 5 deities. Make your deity the Pradhan. So Ganpati Panchayatan, Devi Panchayatan, Surya Panchayatan, like that. So that he made the mind broader, accommodative. And thirdly, he said in social life, you follow the Smritis. So I remember one cousin's conversation, funny. In our house, many professors are sitting for food. Now in that, there was one perhaps who was a Vaishnava. Now Smarta, the pronunciation is similar to an English word. Smart. So the Vaishnava is taunting on funnily saying, Ekadashis are two, always. Or when there are 2 days of Ekadashi, first is Smarta Ekadashi, second is Vaishnava Ekadashi. When both tally in the same day then. But if Ekadashi Tithi gets divided into 2, the first is Smarta Ekadashi, the second is Vaishnava Ekadashi. So something like that was there. So the Vaishnava man says, today is Smarta Ekadashi. That Smarta man retorted, oh, tomorrow is Ekadashi of the fools, non-smart people. Anyway, so Smartas, you understand now Smarta? It is seen too almost everywhere in India that the followers of the Smritis practice one or other of the tantric disciplines. So Anushtani tantric they become. Big scholars of the Nyaya and the Vedanta are, it is observed, tantric in practice. Learned scholars of the Vaishnava communities, well versed in devotional scriptures like the Bhagavata, are also seen to follow the secret sadhanas of the communities like the Karta Puja. Parallel to Tantra, in Vaishnava is Karta Puja. And they are big scholars, but secretly they practice this. Pandit Vaishnav Charan was one of them. He was intimately connected with their secret congregation at Kachibagan, a few miles north of Calcutta. Many men and women of this said community lived there and were engaged in sadhana under his instruction. He was a great guru there. Vaishnav Charan took the master there on a few occasions. Noticing that the master was always perfectly unaffected by lust, and seeing that on account of the love of God, he entered into samadhi, which they had never seen before. A few women of that place tried, we were told, to test him in order to know whether he had completely conquered his passions. As a result, they paid him the respect due to one who was intact, atut, and naturally disposed towards God. Or in Bengali, atut sahaj. The ingenious master, of course, had gone on a trip there with Vaishnav Charan. What is ingenious? At his request, without suspecting anything, he had not gone there to get tested. Oh, ingenious. Balak Sabhav Thakur. Understood? I do not know the meaning of ingenious. Balak Swabhav Thakur. That means simple in nature, did not think and discriminate why he is taking me. He is taking to his sampradaya. I'm going. Not that they will test me and all that. So understood, please? It is Balak Swabhav Thakur, Thakur of childlike nature. The Thakur of child, master of childlike nature, of course, had gone on a trip there with Vaishnava Charan at his request without suspecting anything. He did not know at all that they would test him that way. Be that as it may, he never went there again afterwards. When he understood it is like that, they tested, they got satisfied. But Thakur, when he knew they are doing like this, he did not go again. Before that, few times he had gone. 30. Vaishnav Charan knew the master to be an incarnation of God. We are coming back to Vaishnav Charan's judgment. And why we should honor that? Because he is a scholar of the Vaishnava scripture. Because he has seen Thakur to be Atut Sahaj. And because he has seen the other symptoms in Thakur. When Vaishnav Charan saw the wonderful strength of the master's character, his purity and ecstasy, his devotion to and reverence for him increased so much day by day that he never hesitated at last to admit in the presence of all that the master was an incarnation of God. So to publicly preach, later on we find Girish telling that. But in the beginning it was Vaishnav Charan. And when Girish started selling Thakur is an avatar, Thakur said he is a theatre manager, one is a doctor, Ram. What do they know of incarnation? Pandits of one Shastra, six Shastra, three Shastra, they have declared this as incarnation. So Vaishnava Charan is one of them. Now, Gauri Pandit name has been introduced. So he did not come that day. Afterwards, he was also invited. The miraculous power of Pandit Gauri, the follower of the Tantras. He is not a Vaishnava, he did Tantric worship. But he has got some miraculous powers. And he is also leader in his leader. Scarcely had Vaishnava Charan paid a few visits to the master in a short time when Pandit Gauri of Indesh came to Dakshineshwar. He was an eminent tantric sadhaka. As soon as he reached the Dakshineshwar temple, an amusing event happened in connection with him. We heard of it from the master. He said that Gauri had a miraculous power acquired through his austerities. Whenever he was invited to a scriptural controversy, he used to utter loudly a few times the line, "Whom else shall I, helpless one, have for a refuge but thee, O mother of the pot-bellied Ganesha?" You know the Sanskrit line? Nira lambo lambo darajanani kam yami sharanam. It is the last line of a poetry on mother. Nira lamba, I have no support. Lambodara Janani, Lambodara is pot-bellied Ganesh, his mother. Come Yami Sharanam, to whom I shall take tribute. This used to chant in a loud voice before entering the debate hall. Proceed over the syllables Ha Re Re Re. That is the fourth line of a stanza. But Gauri would say Ha Re 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 Nira Lambo Lambo Dara Janani Kam Yami Sharanam. Evoking heroic sentiment before entering the house and the place of the meeting, twice. Before entering the house and when entering the meeting. The master said the hearts of all were startled with an indescribable fright when they heard from his mouth those syllables, expressive of the heroic mood, and that quarter of a stanza from the hymn to the Devi by the Acharya Shankar. Shankaracharya Stotra, this is. uttered in a voice deep and sonorous like the rumbling of a club. Two results were achieved by this. Firstly, by virtue of that sound, the power in Gauri became fully awakened. And secondly, he stole away the strength of the adversaries by startling and charming them with it. In war, what they did, in those days, they would roar like a lion so that other strength will go away and my strength will. So that is this. Loudly uttering that sound and slapping his left arm like the wrestlers, like that, and then Miralamur. Slapping his left arm like wrestlers with the palm of his right, Gauri entered the meeting and sat down with his legs folded, Virasana, and his knees joined together in front and the feet behind, in the fashion of the courtiers of the emperors of Delhi. In Mughal Darbar, you will see the courtiers are sitting like this. I don't know the difference. Sitting on your haunches, knees folded, that is called it. Virasana it is called. Vajrasana may be slightly different, I will not. Virasane Sansitam Hanumanis. Shown like that. Slight difference is there in the keep of the feet. So that is like the Mughal Darbar. The master said that it was then impossible for anyone to defeat Gauri. That is not the incident. The master had not known of that power of Gauri. But as soon as he entered the Dakshineshwar Kali temple and uttered loudly the syllables Ha Re Re Re, someone as it were within the master pushed him up and made him utter those words more loudly than Gauri. Hearing those syllables from the mouth of the master, Gauri uttered them still more loudly, because then only they will take effect. Excited at that, the master uttered Ha Re Re far more loudly than he. The master used to say smilingly that a terrible noise arose, like the din made during inroads by dacoits, on account of the louder and yet louder utterances of those syllables on both sides. With sticks, cudgels, etc., the gatekeepers of the Kali temple ran from wherever they were, hurriedly toward the place of the noise. All others were beside themselves with fear. That apart, Gauri could not at last utter those words more loudly than the master, and was silenced, and as if in a somewhat dejected mood, slowly entered the Kali temple. On knowing that the master and the newly arrived Pandit were raising all that din, all went away roaring with laughter. The master said, the Divine Mother afterwards told me that the power with which Gauri stole away the powers of others, himself remaining unconquerable, was exposed here and lost to him forever. When some power is lost, he progresses spiritually. Mother attracted that power here into the master for his good. And it was seen that day by day, Gauri was actually charmed by the ideal of the master and became completely obedient to him. Gauri worshipped his wife as the Devi. That is Tantra practice, but he has actually done that. Pandit Gauri was, we have already said, a tantric sadhaka. At the time of the worship of Durga every year, Gauri, we were told by the master, made all the preparations for the worship of the Mother of the Universe, adorned his wife with dress and ornaments, seated her on a wooden seat decorated with alimpana. You know that alimpana? It is there in South India and Bengal and North also. That a red paint. Paint means made from kumkum or some color. In Bengal, this rice powder but red color. And they make the boundary on the feet on which we are sitting. That is called alimpana. Made all the preparation, seated on a wooden seat decorated with alimpana, and for 3 days devoutly worshipped her as the Divine Mother herself. Not that 3 days she has to sit there. On the 3 pujas she used to sit. The Tantra teaches that all the female figures are the forms of the Mother of the Universe, and that there is a great manifestation in them of the Divine Mother's power of maintaining and gladdening the Jiva. That is always there, Hladini and Poshini something. Man therefore should worship in a pure manner all female figures without exception, forgetting that the Divine Mother herself stands veiled in female figures and looking upon female bodies with a feeling of lust, as if they were objects of enjoyment only. One insults the Mother of the Universe herself and consequently meets with endless ruin. In the Chandi, was in Devi Shakti, the gods recite the hymn to the Devi. Here, English translation of Sanskrit is given. Vidya samasta tava devi. Oh, acha, samasta tava devi veda striya samasta sakala jagatsu toye kaya purita mamba me etat kate stuti stavya para parokti. The translation is given. O Devi, thou art the nature of pure consciousness. Again, thou art manifested as all the various sciences, high and low. Vidya Samasta. Samasta, so he says high and low, from which endless kinds of conceptual knowledge arise. That is the full translation of the word Vidya. Conceptual knowledge has come here. Thou existest as all the female figures of the world. Striya Samasta. Thou alone pervadest the whole universe and art present everywhere in it. Thou art incomparable and beyond words. Who has ever been or will be able to describe thy numberless noble qualities by reciting a hymn to thee? So here the point is that all the women are Devi's manifestation, along with all other Devi's characteristics. Many of us read this hymn daily in India. But alas, how few of us try to look upon the female figure as the Devi herself. Pay it the due respect even for a few moments, and thus feel pure joy in our hearts and feel blessed. How few are those who do not look with a vile mind and an impure eye upon female figures, the vehicles of the Divine Mother's special manifestation, and do not insult the Mother of the Universe hundreds of times every day. O India, you are in this present miserable condition only because you insult female forms with your bestial attitude and have forgotten to serve Jiva as Shiva. Second, other mixes. Common man, you should worship as Shiva. Woman, you should worship as Devi. And because you have forgotten to do this, he has brought the other thing also. The Mother of the Universe alone knows when she will have compassion on you and remove that bestial mood of yours. This Saradananda Swamiji's remark. Gauri's strange process of offering oblation. And that's Siddhai of Gauri. So firstly, Gauri worshipped his own wife, at least during Durga Puja, as the mother. So he was a good sadhaka, pure sadhaka. Gauri's strange process of offering oblations. We have heard from the master himself of another wonderful power of Pandit Gauri. The eminent tantric sadhakas perform homa at the end of the daily worship of the Universal Mother. Gauri also performed it on many occasions, if not daily. Other than Durga Puja, many occasions. But the process of his homa was very strange. He did not perform it like others, who make an altar on the ground by means of lumps of earth or sand, arrange pieces of wood on it, and then kindle fire and offer oblations. He stretched his own left arm in the air and placed on it one mound about 82 pounds. I told you 40 kilos of wood at a time by the right hand. Lighted it and offered oblations into it with his right hand. It is not a little time that Homer takes, so it appears to us to be quite impossible for one to sustain the heavy weight of one mound of wood on the arm stretched in the air and keep the mind calm and devotedly offer oblations in the prescribed way for so long a time, bearing the heat of the fire on the arm all the while. That is why many of us could not at first believe in the heat, even when we heard of it from the master himself. The master understood it and said, I saw him do with my own eyes. That was also one of his miraculous powers. This Thakur did not take away because it is not harming or defeating anybody. A meeting, now come to the point. A meeting including Vaishnav Charan and Gauri is convened at Dakshineshwar. The master in Bhavasamadhi rode on the shoulders of Vaishnav Charan, who composed a hymn in praise of him at that meeting. Mathur Babu invited a few scholarly aspirants like Vaishnav Charan and convened a meeting a few days after Gauri had come to Dakshineshwar. The purpose of the meeting was a discussion between the newly arrived Pandit Gauri and other scholars on scriptural evidence in order to ascertain, as before, the spiritual condition of the master. It was convened in the morning in the music hall, Nat Mandir, in front of the temple of the Mother Kali. Seeing that Vaishnav Charan was late in coming from Calcutta, the master started for the place of the meeting with Gauri. Gauri came to Thakur's room and they started going to Nat Mandir. Before entering the meeting, he went into the temple of the Divine Mother Kali, saluted her with devotion and worshipped her feet. As soon as he came out of the temple, staggering in Bhavasamadhi, he saw Vaishnav Charan fall at his feet and salute him. No sooner had the master, inspired by spiritual emotion and love of God, seen him, that he went into Samadhi and sat on Vaishnav Charan's shoulders. The latter felt blessed and was beside himself with joy. He composed extempore and recited a hymn to the master in Sanskrit. Seeing that gracious and bright form of the master in Samadhi and hearing that graceful recital of the hymn by Vaishnav Charan with his heart overflowing with joy, Mathur and the others present were standing motionless on all sides with their eyes steadfast and hearts filled with devotion. The master's Samadhi came to an end shortly afterwards, when all went along slowly with him and sat down in the place of the meeting. Now began the proceedings of the meeting. But Gauri first of all said suddenly, as he, the master, has bestowed so much grace on the Pandit, I will not enter into a discussion with him today. Even if I did, I am sure to be defeated. For he is armed with divine grace today. Moreover, I find he is a person holding the same opinion as I do. His conviction about the master is the same as mine. A discussion is therefore useless in this case. The meeting came to an end after a little scriptural conversation on other topics. It was not a fact that Gauri was afraid of the scholarship of Vaishnava and so refrained from a controversy with him. Seeing the way of life of the master and his characteristics, he, with the help of his keen insight produced by his tapas, felt in his heart of hearts, even in that short period of his stay there, that the master was not an ordinary man, but a great soul. For some time afterward, the master said to him, with a view to testing his mind, look here. That day they did not discuss. Thakur asked him separately, look here, Vaishnavacharan called this an incarnation of God. Can that be so? Please tell me what you think. Gauri replied seriously, does Vaishnavacharan call you an incarnation? I should consider his estimate very low. My conviction is that you are he from whose parts incarnations come down to the world from age to age to do good to humanity, and with whose power they accomplish that works of theirs. So, from God some parts come, and through God's power they do things. You are that God. The master said with a smile, you go even beyond him. Will you tell me what you see in me? Gauri said, I say so on the evidence of the scriptures and from my own experience. If anyone takes up the opposite view and controverts me, I am ready to prove my conviction. The master said like a boy, you say so many things. Who knows what it is? I don't know anything at all. Gauri replied, quite right. The scriptures also say, thou does not know thyself. So please say how others can know you. If you have compassion on anybody and let him know the truth, then he can know it. Detachment came on Gauri in the company of the master, Guru. He renounced the world and went away to practice tapasya. The master smiled on hearing the words of faith of the Pandit. Gauri's attraction for the master grew with days. In the master's divine company, the Pandit's knowledge of the scriptures and the result of his sadhana were drawing towards completion and were manifested as intense detachment from the world. He was daily losing his relish for scholarship, honor, miraculous powers, etc. And his mind was withdrawing itself to the lotus feet of God. Gauri had now no more that pride of scholarship, that love for argumentation, that arrogance, all vanished altogether. He now understood that he had spent his precious time so long in vain without making the utmost effort to realize the lotus feet of the Divine Lord. Time should no more be wasted that way. He formed the firm resolve in his mind that he should renounce this all and, depending entirely on God with a heart full of devotion, should spend the few days of his life in eagerly calling on him so that he might have his grace and vision. Gauri thus spent day after day and month after month, acha, long time, huh? In the blessed company of the Master and in the meditation of God. As he was for a long time away from home, the members of the Pandit's family, his wife, son, and others, wrote letters to him again and again, for they had some inkling from people that he mixed with a certain holy madman at Dakshineshwar, and that his mind was becoming indifferent to the world. A big history, huh? In Vaishnavacharan, he taught his people, he learned from Thakur, but in Gauri, went away. They thought that they might come to Dakshineshwar and drag him into the worldly life again, gradually grew strong in the mind of the Pandit. This was evident from the trend of the letters he received from them. After a great deal of anxious thought, Gauri discovered a way out. Knowing that an auspicious moment has arrived, he bowed down at the holy feet of the Master and asked leave of him with tears in his eyes. The Master said, "What is that, Gauri? Why do you want to leave suddenly? Where will you go?" Gauri replied with folded hands, "Bless me so that I may have my desire fulfilled. I will not return before I realize God." Since then, the world has never heard of Pandit Gauri in spite of a great deal of search. Incognito, he went out. Now, what Thakur learned from them? While giving instruction, the master would quote Vaishnava Charan and Gauri, faith in the Leela of God as a human being. Thakur's speciality, Swamiji's speciality. Thakur may be incarnation, he may be knowing everything. But if he has first heard that from someone, he would mention always his name. The Master mentioned to us many a time various incidents from the lives of Vaishnava Charan and Gauri. Again, sometimes in the course of discussing some topic, he would tell us what opinion they had expressed on it. One day, while he was giving instruction to a devout aspirant, the master, we remember, said to him, "When one actually sees his chosen ideal in man, one can realize the divine. One can realize the divine Lord if we see in man God." Vaishnava used to say, when one has faith in the Leela of God as man, one acquires perfect knowledge. Gauri, on the knowledge of non-difference between Kali and Krishna. You can stop here. Huh? Gauri's things we'll read tomorrow. We'll complete the chapter and go to the next chapter. Little is left, but it is getting late now. Om Sarvadharma Sthapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupakah Acharyanam Acharyo Ramakrishna Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu.